Shares of Microstrategy have been on a monster run this year, up over 500%, in part, or really all in part, because of its massive holdings of Bitcoin. The company is the largest corporate holder of the cryptocurrency. They recently bought another 15,000 Bitcoin for about $1.5 billion. Its co-founder and executive chairman, Michael Saylor, joined Squawk Box this morning to explain the purchase.
We sold $1.5 billion worth of stock, backed by $500 million worth of Bitcoin. We bought back $1.5 billion of Bitcoin. We captured nearly $1 billion gain in the arbitrage. That we can do with equity day by day. When we do it with debt, we issue $3 billion of debt that's backed by $600 million of Bitcoin that comes due in 5 years. We pay 0% interest. We buy $3 billion of Bitcoin. We capture the $2.4 billion in the arbitrage gain up front. But then over the course of the 5 years, we double or we quadruple the investment because we're buying an asset which is appreciating faster than the S&P.
Appreciating faster than the S&P. That's the key part. Our panel of experts joins us to discuss the company's valuation. Tom Lee is head of research at Fundstrat. Tom, welcome. Global Advisors and CNBC contributor. Herb Greenberg is here as well. He's editor of Herb on the Street. Listen, with you two keyed up, I don't even know where this is going to go. Tom, I'll start with you, and I think my two questions about this would be, number one, what happens when the price of Bitcoin goes down? Number two, why would people pay a premium for the Bitcoin this company holds when they could just go buy the Bitcoin itself? Or they could short it and capture. You know what I'm saying. Tom, go ahead.
Kelly, both of those questions that you asked have been asked about MicroStrategy since inception. They've pursued this strategy for many years now. And I think those who've been skeptical of Michael Saylor's focus on following this Bitcoin standard would have said, well, you're paying a premium, so you should short the stock. And there have been many, many famous short seller reports over the last couple of years suggesting that. And of course, the stock has been a stupendous performer. I think one of the things investors are missing is, one, it's clear that there is a pretty active treasury strategy that MicroStrategy is using. So in other words, they are using available capital and liquidity to do some opportunistic buying and sort of capital management around their Bitcoin position. But I think more importantly, they're really opening up the fixed income market to offer instruments that have derivative exposure to Bitcoin. I mean, their issued instruments, both convertible and bonds, have been among the best performing corporate bonds over the past few years. So if you're looking at funds that are trying to say, well, I can earn 4% on Treasury, or I have a chance to buy corporate bonds at 50 basis points wider, these have been tremendous performers. And so does that mean he's taking advantage of the bond market? Well, it's showing you that the high volatility of Bitcoin, and he talks about this, is actually something that he's allowed in the capital markets to lower his cost of financing. So he's actually arbitraging the volatility of Bitcoin to actually borrow money at lower cost. I think it's a great strategy.
So Herb, I guess the only thing I would say about that is it's basically, these are kind of these are like future, they're product, they're kind of products in the world of options or debt markets or what have you. I mean, this feels like it's less about a company. To that point, if Bitcoin continues to go higher, I guess none of this is an issue. If it stops though, Herb, what do you think? And again, I still don't understand why this would, in the long run, be worth twice the value of the underlying Bitcoin.
Well, first of all, I'm a huge fan of Tom Lee, so what Tom says goes, especially for the way he thinks and for his strategy. And I'm not a Bitcoin expert, and I'm not a MicroStrategy expert. I'm here as somebody who basically can tell you there's a whole group of people who have a very different view on this because they're not so focused on it that they people consider this. I put up I put up something on Twitter a while back, a week ago or so, after Saylor was on Squawk Box. That time I said, we're talking about a pyramid on a pyramid. And I had more than close to 1 million views on this thing. The biggest thing that I've ever done that has been seen by people on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. And they were all, half of them were screaming at me saying, what do you mean? If I had said speculation on top of speculation, the other half were saying, hey, I'm with you. So the point is it worth it? If you believe, the bottom line here is if you believe that Bitcoin is headed to where so many smart people think it's headed over some point in time, then, and you're willing to ride the volatility, then this is a leveraged bet on that, like a leveraged ETF. And, you know, you would own it and you would put a big value on it for that because you're going to make so much more money.
Tom Lee, Bitcoin in some ways reminds me of real estate, and I don't mean real estate in any particular place. The overall general idea is that it tends to go up, but we go through these crashes, and if you buy at the wrong time, there's leverage involved, you can lose your shirt, right? I mean, Michael Saylor is basically gambling with the house money at this point. He's been very right for a very long time. He's made billions of dollars, but past performance is no guarantee of future results, as we like to say.
That's correct. I mean, that is the nature of equity markets because stocks don't provide any floor. No matter how much people think there's a floor in a stock, there isn't. I mean, witness the sell-offs on stocks that disappoint. So is MicroStrategy, the fact that its stock could go down makes it any, a worse investment than Intel or any numerous names this year, like, Wingstop, which have fallen dramatically on an earnings miss? I'd say we're almost like asking the wrong question because what MicroStrategy is doing is not only are they offering you exposure to Bitcoin, they are funding a lot of this with zero-cost convertible instruments that have on an, when you look at the option value, actually offering tremendous value. Right. If you try to buy 3-year leaps on MicroStrategy, they're more expensive than the convertible bonds.
Well,
so
Tom, we got to go in just a minute, so I want to get Herb's last thoughts as well. Herb, I think I've learned over time, we don't invest in individual stocks, those of us who are, working for CNBC, but you can't really trade on somebody else's conviction. You got to have your own conviction about the thing because if you're trading on somebody else's conviction, when it goes down, then what have you got, right? So you've got to believe in it for yourself. Isn't that some of what this is? You've got to really believe in Bitcoin, like really, if you're buying MicroStrategy.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, look, I listen to what Tom says, but let's face it, this is speculation. At this stage, it is a speculative bet. And to say anything but that, I even think the bulls would agree with that. It's just a matter of duration. So you have to be willing to deal with that level of speculation. Other than that, it's a big echo chamber of people on both sides of this trying to sort of, peddle the, what they think will happen. And right now we have a lot of, as my friend Peter Atwater would say, people feeling very invulnerable, feeling, just totally emboldened like they've never felt before. But hey, guess what? This reminds me of 2021 in so many ways. Just because we are not, I won't say peak FOMO on Bitcoin and on MicroStrategy, but this is very reminiscent to what we've seen in the past. And right now, so many people are thinking, "Gee, I ought to be in that." And Tom, that's the point. You have to say, there's potential risk here.
Tom, quickly, what would tell you that this company has really passed? Some people mentioned the collapse of FTX a couple of years ago, but the stock is much more highly valued now at twice the Bitcoin value than it was back then when it, again, weathered that event. What would tell you that it's going to weather, maybe a 20% pullback in Bitcoin, Tom, or something like that? I mean, what would tell you that the footing here is sure, or do you think that that's not the point?
Well, there is an anchoring, that MicroStrategy's active strategy can't trade at an excess premium to Bitcoin. That's one. But second would be the scarcity. If we saw the Mag 7 adopt this strategy, then you'd probably see the premium diminish on a MicroStrategy. But as you know, there are very few companies that are adopting their strategy.
Yeah, he's trying to get them to. It's funny that you think that would reduce its value because others think that his idea is to get others to buy it as well, keep the value going up. Gentlemen, you brought it. Thank you. We hope to revisit this. Tom Lee and Herb Greenberg on MicroStrategy.